please welcome Scott Sandwich.
Now I know that I'm not alone in this room when I say that I believe words are an important and effective way of expressing oneself and causing change, as opposed to, say, a violent demonstration of destruction. I'm not going to preach to the choir, but here's the science. Picture a wheat field. Each grain is a single piece, and together it makes up a whole. It's a splice, a William Burrow, if you will, reordered and sifted through an object, the way the distortion of a vinyl player filters through a record, or a phone signal interrupts a radio transmission, or the marrow squeezing between your bones, or a psychic sorts through your thoughts, or the way that your scent infects my pillow like putting warm bread on a rug. Because when you burn an object, it rises. It's the same object, just portioned smaller, a tangible piece, a being, a thing. Now sing! Where was that? Smoke is what I'm trying to say, because every single room is full of air particles, right? Millions upon billions, evenly spread and at rest. And when you burn an object, it just rises and moves to a different place. It does this by sifting between the gaps of the air particles, and all you've managed to do is smear your hate, and it blurs and no one notices. You've affected nothing. But when you talk, you cause vibrations, and these air particles shake and they rattle and roll and they vibrate less and less the longer a sound takes. Intangibility aches, sits in stillness, the air's not moving, there is system, there is order, a natural hoarder of nothingness or everything depending. You see, sometimes we forget that sound too is a thing, knocking particles together in vibrations that sing and squeal and continue infrequently but at all frequencies all at once. Any sound you make is like screaming revolution on impact, hitting the hard surfaces, the louder, longer and lower pass through. The smaller ones don't stop, they simply deflect and spread elsewhere, and the revolution continues with the scream, this chain reaction of air particles. And you interpret this disorder, and you can hear the word revolution causing this war on a tiny battlefield of infinite planes, and you just nod and you whisper, revolution. And when things go quiet, and they're all vibrating less and less, and the air particles come to rest, well, it's here that you hear it. And you can just leave it. But when things turn soft, you can then in turn scream it, revolution! And the battle between air particles starts again. There'll always be fighters and rebels and broken voice boxes, and no one says when, but no matter how loud, low or long, no matter what kind of speakers your sound is coming from, how powerful your wish is, how real your need is, how sensitive your mic on how long your life, the number of your parishioners or how creative your listeners, these air particles always rebel against you with their natural resistance until you're on even ground. And you're getting weaker and weaker against a constant enemy, a powerful, endless apathy, until you've got nothing left and you stand on stage out of breath. A pathetic demise, a short, senseless death. You see, silence doesn't request to be your guest. It just grabs your ears by their necks until it's like the air never moved at all. But nothing can stop you from screaming again, revolution! Revolution! Revolution. I find it strange that you can repeat a word and the echoes make less and less sense over the time. I don't mean the way that saying a word so fast that syllables run together and become nonsensical. I mean the way that Beethoven's Ninth is someone's background music, or your favourite song came on the radio and you didn't even notice. How depressing is it that some phrases that were once so strong have been stripped of their power and become cliché? Take a moment and just remember our favourite fallen heroes. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? I realised recently I've always been reading this wrong. I've always put the emphasis on the word shall, like a chump. But there's no question here. It's not a will I, won't I situation. He will compare you, goddammit, and he does so promptly, much to the poor summer's day's dismay, left shrivelled and half dead in a pile of its own bile. Emphasise I. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? All other poets of less talent, skill and fame have always compared their loved ones to big, perfect things. He asks, shall I now be the one to make a boring, superficial simile like the rest of us unimaginative buggers? I, he says, will never do that, and in the entire collection of sonnets he does not. But now, he continues, I will anyway, just to prove to you why it's so pointless. I will take the biggest, grandest and most widely understood idea of natural beauty, the pure summer's day, the toughest competition for comparison, full of dawn and roses and rainbows. It should be too easy for the bard. And still it proves inferior, unworthy and inadequate compared to his love. The pure summer's day, well, it changes, it's unreliable, it passes and it ends. Its flaws are innumerable. But the young man he writes this sonnet about has none. And this is what love does to everyone. His love is so strong that the very notion of comparison is a weak and pathetic compliment, can only be fruitless. Words that have been chosen and strung together to sound good but ultimately mean squat. Hyperbolic comparison, he says, for want of a better reference, is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And in the previous sonnets, he wrote about why he loves logically. You must share your love, breed with me, we'll find a way. Your beauty must remain in this world, continue your bloodline, blah, 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 blah. And after 17 forced sonnets of this dribbling drivel, he finally has the courage to say, I love you because I love you. Praise for the sake of praise, begging for a better way to say it. In the end, he settles on this old, tired, used idea. A cliche. Because he knows that even the greatest words of Shakespeare can never be enough. So with that in mind, you, my darling, are a zip. You are comparable to the zip on the fly of my unwashed jeans. They're the ones that you can't stand, that you don't understand why I still have them, why I haven't thrown them out, and you don't let me wear them out in public. You may not see it, but that zip is... Granted, zippers I don't always understand, and sometimes they break, and when they do, let's face it, it's generally my fault. Criticism may be flung your way when you don't feel perfectly aligned, or that you decide that your parts are not perfectly shaped. Love may mean that comparisons are pointless, but you are a zip. One of the greatest and most useful inventions known to mankind, often overlooked, always underrated, and no one will ever say that life could possibly be better without you. There have been previous fasteners, mind you. There have been buttons, and there have been clips. But you are the best. You are my zip.